following is my own true story from my personal experience. I do not speak on behalf of the United States Marine Corps or any other U.S. Marine. This is my own story. Your experience is different. I cannot speak on that.
I hesitated to make this video because I do not want people to get the impression that the average leader in the Marines is going to be like the guy I am going to talk about. And the average leader is not like who I will be describing, but it is an undeniable reality that terrible leadership exists everywhere. And of course, also in the military. It is just that in the military, due to its unique nature compared to, say, a corporate job, if you do get a bad leader, and especially if you are a lower ranking person, at least at the time, that person can make your life a living hell. And so before we get into the story, I need to set the scene. In the military, you have something called a general base inspection from some sort of commanding officer. Now, that stuff is usually what officers and other super senior enlisted people do and organize, so I have no idea how it actually works on the back end. Some guy with some shiny stuff on their collar comes to base, make sure there isn't some kind of LSD ring going on or someone rigging up the chow hall with C4 or something, so on and so forth. But what I do know is that when these inspections occur, that is when the chain of command starts setting out a bunch of working parties to tidy up the base and take care of whatever needs to be done. So, what is a working party? Now, I have covered this before, but that was all the way back in episode 1 of Marine Corps Chronicles. So, oh, by the way, check out my other episodes if you missed them. And so I will repeat some of the stuff I have already said. Working parties are exactly what it sounds like. You get sent out to do a bunch of random tasks, and on paper that makes sense. I mean, trash needs to be taken out, second lieutenant's cars need to be lifted and taken to a different parking spot, so on and so forth. But here's the thing. Half of the working parties I've been on have been, how do I put this? Complete fucking bullshit. Because working parties are also used to keep Marines busy so they won't start doing crazy ass shit if they sit around and do nothing. In fact, I had a working party once where I was put on a rat killing duty. Yeah, I know that's against my own kind, I guess. Because some LT found rat droppings in his office or wherever the fuck he worked. And so I was handed a broom and a trash bag and I was told to see if I can smash any rats I saw darting across the room. But that is a story for another time, and working parties are, honestly, in hindsight, some of the funniest memories you can have. So on this day in 29 Palms, we had to do our usual working party assignments for this inspection, and because this was supposed to be some sort of big ass, crazy ass inspection or something like that, we actually had an entire week straight of working parties going around different sections of the base to do whatever. Actually, for the first 2 days, I was assigned to a working party where we had to organize rocks. I am not joking. Some dude thought that when he looked out the window, the place looked unprofessional with different sized rocks all over the ground, and so he made our working party line up in what is called a police call, where we all line up in a big ass line and then walk down this open field holding our covers or our hats in our hands, where we place the rocks that look too big and then we dump them to like a nearby ditch. Except this shit took fucking forever because you can fill up your cover pretty fast when you're filling them up with rocks, and so we started chucking them as far as we could ahead of us so that we could like kind of leapfrog the rocks all the way until we got to the edge where we were supposed to be working. Also, keep in mind, we are in a desert. Sand is just small rocks. And so we quite literally organize rocks in the rock biome. Anyways, after 2 days of rock throwing and some other bullshit, we were sent out to another part of the base for trash collection. This specific part of the base had a bunch of sewers. Okay, I know someone's gonna say, it's actually a storm drain, not a sewer. I can't tell the difference. But the entire place we were picking up trash in wasn't just covered with like normal trash like cigarette butts and energy drinks and cans and all that stuff. People were dumping diabolical shit into them, and so the entire place smelled and looked like a sewer anyways. You can see from this picture I took of some of that stuff, and while that picture is from a different working party, it was the same dynamics of assorted items and garbage tossed around the sewers that we were cleaning. But whatever, it was not the first time or last time I would be cleaning up trash or going to a working party, and so I head out to this working party with some other Marines, and the NCO in charge of us leaves us at this area, which reminded me of Rust in Modern Warfare 2, and a senior Lance Corporal then greets us, takes over, and then he doesn't seem to really care about anything. This senior Lance, he pulls out his phone, he starts chilling. He tells us to wait by the side of the building underneath some shade as the corporal who will actually be in charge of us for this working party will be out soon. So we sit around and we start looking at our phones. I actually didn't look at my phone because my reception was ass, and I also had an old ass iPhone 6 at the time. And by the way, that was not a new release, alright? And so that thing would die like an hour after use. So I stacked some pebbles to pass the time, and we were just waiting around when I hear a voice scream at us, "Get the fuck fucking parade rest. Have you ever met someone and in like 10 seconds you can tell this is about to be a bad time? Yeah, this was that time. As we all got into parade rest, I saw who screamed at us and who was in charge, and I'll call this guy Corporal Richard, aka Corporal Dick. The first thing I notice about this guy is that dude is built like a 4x4 plywood. Dude looked like he was half marshmallow and melting in the sun. If anyone's watching this that might be big bone, please don't take it personally. But keep in mind, we are in the Marines, so being physically fit is literally a part of the job description. In fact, I remember just thinking, how the actual fuck did this guy pass height and weight? Or maybe he didn't pass height and weight, and that's why he got put in charge of a bunch of boots while his buddies were in the back throwing a barbecue. And so he starts screaming at us about how disrespectful pieces of shit we were for lounging around in the presence of a corporal, in the presence of a non-commissioned officer. And the entire time we're just going, aye, corporal, aye, corporal, aye, corporal, aye, corporal. I swear, when people pick up corporal, they either lose their minds or are pretty chill. So after this tirade, he tells us to start getting into our boots and utes, to grab our camelbacks or whatever water source we brought, alongside some trash bags for our working party assignment. He takes us to this sewer area that I was talking about earlier, and we start cleaning. Except, unlike most working parties where the NCO is kind of like keeping an eye on you, but more passive, or honestly, sometimes they just leave and they come back whenever they need to, Corporal Richard Cockington I is just glaring at us, staring at us. Dude was just like a hawk. And usually for working parties, you can talk to other Marines, and so while we were whispering to each other and talking softly, the moment he heard voices louder than a library voice, he would start screaming at you, which is kind of ironic if his goal was to maintain noise pollution. So, believe it or not, none of us were having a good time, or at least a worse time than we would have had. I felt like I was in the yard of Shawshank Redemption. You could have probably given this dude a rifle and have him take pot shots at us for the same effect. And the first day goes by and we clean and we whisper to each other, but the entire day you can just feel the resentment building. And remember, this guy is watching us, so there is no way he didn't notice it either. But as our workday was coming to an end, we were all like, hell yeah, fuck this guy, I can't wait to hit the gym afterwards and then play some video games and never see his ass again. And then this guy tells us that we would be back here the first thing the next morning after our morning formation, and we would be back again until the area was clean. And after he said that, we just kind of looked at each other and we all knew what everyone else was thinking. That rifle muzzle is starting to look like a candy cane. We stand at parade rest, waiting for Corporal Dick Spinner 3000 to give us the task for the day, and then when he does show up, he reeked like cigarettes and had a fat dip in his mouth. Oh, I should probably mention earlier that this dude was either smoking cigarettes, vaping, dipping, or all of the above, and I don't think I have ever seen him without some sort of nicotine product on him or in his mouth. Dip, by the way, is a form of chewing tobacco. Sorry, I am not an expert on dip or nicotine in general. I actually didn't even know what dip was until I saw it in the Marines. But you first have to hold the can in a certain way, and then you shake it to pack it, and then you would take your fingers and pinch off a glob and stick it in your mouth. I actually only tried dipping once when I was in the field and I got offered, but I didn't know how to actually stuff that shit in my mouth, so I ended up swallowing half of it and felt sick and nauseous for the rest of the day. Now, nicotine of all forms is pretty common in the Marines as well as the military in general, but the difference, and why I specifically mention it, is that this guy, when he was blasting you, either had dip exploding out of his mouth, or dude would walk up to you, make you stand at parade rest so that you can't move, and then start blowing cigarette smoke in your face that stung your eyes and gave you the second-hand cancer speed run. Also, when this guy dipped, he wouldn't just spit in a bottle like what other people would do, and even when he was outside, he would deliberately walk up to you and spit his dip spit right at your feet so that if you didn't see it, you would just walk right on top of it. There was actually a rumor going around, and keep in mind this is a rumor, right? I have zero proof of any of this, that he was only put in charge of us as a punishment because he beat the fuck out of his wife and there was an investigation. Again, it's just a rumor, but honestly that would explain why dude was so angry all the time, and I feel bad for his wife. So once again, we are cleaning and an hour goes by and I gotta use the bathroom, or the head as we call it. And so I'm sitting there picking up trash and I'm not exactly enthralled to interact with this guy, but I had to go, alright? So I see this angry plywood ass sucking on some dip and I walk up to him, and keep in mind he is is glaring at me this entire time I'm walking up, right? So he knows I'm coming. And I go, good morning, I am request. Dude explodes to his feet and goes, good morning, Corporal. That's Corporal to you. Denied. I didn't even say what I was requesting, by the way. And also, why did this dumbass motherfucker think that I would walk up to him and ask him anything unless I absolutely had to? Now, I actually did have to go to the bathroom, and I don't have the power to undergo mitosis so I can be two places at once. So I don't walk away because I gotta go to the fucking bathroom. And so I say again, good morning, Corporal. He goes, what the fuck did I just say? And I cut to the chase. I have to use the head, Corporal. I don't want to shit myself. Could I have worded it nicer? Sure, but I don't exactly think this guy had the patience for me to do all that. And so he is glaring at me, but he also can't deny my request unless he wants to explain to whoever is in charge of him why one of the Marines under his command did an internal explosion. He must have felt embarrassed or felt like I was trying to embarrass him because I am gone for 10 minutes, not 20, not 15, not 30, 10 minutes, and when I come back, he tells me to stand at parade rest and start blasting me about how I was trying to skate, aka skip out of work. If I wanted to skate work, I would have been gone for longer than 10 minutes. I promise you that. But I give him the aye Corporal, aye Corporal, aye Corporal, aye Corporal stick and return back to working. I don't know, maybe this guy was expecting me to get all greasy with my mouth and give him some more reasons to fuck me up, but I didn't give him any ammunition to do so. So I'm working, and 10 minutes later, and this entire time, I'm sneaking glances in his direction, and dude is glaring at me specifically, and I can tell he is seething with anger. Around 10 minutes go by, and he calls me over to him. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that he wasn't about to hand me 2 tickets to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Once again, I am at parade rest, and this dude is also smoking a cigarette, probably intentionally, and blowing it straight into my face between screaming at me. And I swear he was taking extra long drags because I felt like dude was hotboxing me with cancer. What was he screaming at me about? Literally nothing. Dude was just screaming insults at me about how I was a disrespectful piece of shit who didn't know how to talk to people that outranked him. When I think back on this, I honestly think dude was like dealing with a bunch of personal issues, which obviously I can't confirm that or anything. But the only thing that made him feel powerful was his rank of corporal. And so since I was a junior Marine at the time and not in NCO, he felt like me asking him to go to the head despite being told no initially was just the ultimate disrespect. I don't know, that's just my theory. So I fuck off once again and start my mentally stimulating task of collecting trash, and roughly an hour goes by. These sewers have more shallow and deeper sections, but the walls of them are slanted in sort of like a V shape. So while it was still pretty slick, it wasn't a direct drop down. I usually started on the edge to collect trash and then went into the actual sewer to pick up whatever needed to be picked up. That way, when I had to get out, I didn't have to pull myself up with the ledge covered with trash. So I'm leaning over, collecting trash and stuff, when I feel a stiff shove from my back. Now, I'm pretty sure when he shoved me, he wasn't trying to shove me into the sewer from the angle that the shove was given, but because I was leaning over and picking up stuff, my weight distribution was hella weird, and so instead of falling parallel to the sewer, my ass went tumbling in. It didn't even hurt. It felt similar to being in a dream where you're just processing what just happened, that no actual fucking way someone just shoved me into a goddamn sewer. And because of the V shape of the sewer, I did a halfway sideways turn flip while falling in and then landed in a pile of trash. I knew that the only motherfucker that had a reason to shove me would be Corporal Richard. And so what do you know? As I am getting up, I see his dump truck walking away from me. Some other Marines in this working party helped me up, and I think Corporal Richard knew that he took it a little too far, and so while this dude was still glaring at me and he definitely was not happy, he actually didn't call me over to blast me again for the rest of the day. And again, please keep in mind, Corporal Richard is not representative of the average NCO in the Marines, but also keep in mind that the military is simply a different environment. Obviously, if you did some slick shit like that in an office, HR would send you packing alongside probably the local police. But in this environment, while it is not encouraged, there is sometimes, how do I put it? A blind eye that is turned. Let's leave it at that. That does not, and I'm gonna emphasize this again, that does not mean that you should do anything like that if you are in the military or the Marines or whatever it may be. I am just saying. For the rest of the day, I had other working party Marines who saw what happened come up to me going like, bro, that was fucking crazy. And we would joke about how that was probably how he beat his wife too. Okay, I know that's nothing to joke about, but that is what was said. So by the end of the day, we made sure to actually get the place clean so that we never have to be under the command of Corporal Richard again. Funnily enough, this actually wouldn't be the last time I saw Corporal Richard. I would meet him again in a completely different working party where we had more negative encounters, but that is also a story for another day. The moral of the story, don't turn your cheeks towards suspicious people. Thank you for watching and making it to the end. Like and subscribe for more, but of course I hope that you watching this, have a wonderful day.